Hey there, welcome back to WTF History, the channel where we rip open the pages of the past to uncover the wild, the weird, and the downright chilling. If you're new here, you're in for a treat, or maybe a shock, because today we're diving into one of the most gruesome stories from 16th century England. Picture this, it's April 5th, 1531, and the sky over London is a dull, heavy gray, like the city itself knows something terrible is about to go down. Crowds are pouring into Smithfield, a place usually alive with cattle fairs and the occasional execution. But this isn't your typical hanging or beheading. In the center of the square sits a massive bronze cauldron, flames crackling beneath it, the water inside starting to simmer. The air's thick with anticipation, dread, and that strange human curiosity that draws people to watch the unthinkable. Then, the guards march in, dragging a man whose face is as pale as death itself. His name is Richard Roose, a cook who's about to face a punishment so horrific it'll make your skin crawl. We're talking death by boiling, slow, agonizing, and straight out of nightmare. How does a guy who spends his days stirring pots end up being cooked in one? Let's rewind and find out. We're stepping back to February 1531, and England is a hot mess. King Henry VIII, the guy who practically invented Tudor drama, is dead set on divorcing his wife, Catherine of Aragon, so he can marry the sharp and ambitious Anne Boleyn. This isn't just a royal soap opera. It's a full-blown crisis splitting the kingdom in two. On one side, you've got the Catholic Church and its loyalists, who see marriage as sacred and untouchable. On the other, you've got Henry's allies, including the Boleyn family, who are climbing the power ladder faster than you can say crown. The tension's so thick you could cut it with a sword, and caught in the middle is John Fisher, the Bishop of Rochester. Fisher's not just any priest. He's a fierce opponent of Henry's divorce, a man of unshakable faith who's basically daring the king to make a move. And let me tell you, standing up to Henry VIII is like poking a bear with a stick. Fisher knows he's a target. He's not sleeping in the same bed twice. He's got eyes on every servant. And he's especially paranoid about his food. Poisoning was the go-to for anyone looking to take out an enemy quietly, and Fisher's not taking any chances. Enter Richard Roose, the guy at the center of our story. He's just a cook in Fisher's household in Lambeth, south of London. Nothing about him screams dangerous. He's middle-aged, blends into the background, and keeps the bishop's kitchen running like clockwork. No one's writing ballads about Richard Roose. He's the kind of guy who'd be an extra in a movie, not the star. But on February 18th, 1531, everything changes. Fisher's hosting a lunch for some guests, nothing too fancy, just a typical meal with a thick, hearty soup, standard English grub for the time. Roose is in the kitchen, stirring the pot, same as always. But then he does something inexplicable. He slips a powder into the soup. Later, he'll swear up and down it was just a prank. A purgative meant to give everyone a bad day in the outhouse, not kill them. A mean-spirited joke, sure, but not murder. Except that's not how it plays out. Fisher, maybe because he's not hungry or just plain lucky, barely touches the soup. His guests aren't so cautious. They dig in. So do a couple of beggars, Bennett, Kerwin, and Alice try it, who get the leftovers as part of the household's charity. Hours later, the nightmare begins. People are doubled over, vomiting, sweating, convulsing. The beggars, who ate the most, don't make it through the night. Their bodies are found the next day, twisted in agony. This isn't a prank gone wrong. This is poison, and it's deadly. The news hits London like a thunderbolt. Poisoning a bishop? That's not just a crime. It's a scandal that could shake the entire kingdom. Word reaches Henry VIII, and he's livid. Fisher might be his political enemy, but an attack like this is a threat to the whole system. If someone can poison a bishop, what's stopping them from slipping something into the king's ale? Henry's paranoia goes into overdrive, and he orders an immediate investigation. Roose doesn't get far. He's caught trying to flee London and dragged to the Tower of London. There, they strap him to the rack, a torture device that stretches your body until your joints scream. Under that kind of pain, most people will say whatever their captors want to hear, and Roose is no exception. He confesses to adding the powder, but insists he thought it was just a laxative, not a lethal poison. Does anyone buy it? Not really. The court's not interested in his story. They want blood. But this is where things get wild. Henry doesn't just want Roose punished. He wants him made an example of in a way that'll haunt people's nightmares for years. Henry takes this case personally. And I mean personally. On February 28th, he does something almost unheard of for a king. He shows up in Parliament to lay out the crime himself, like he's the prosecutor in a courtroom drama. He declares the poisoning an act of high treason, not just against Fisher, but against the crown itself. Parliament, never once to cross a furious Henry, jumps into action. They pass a new law, the Act for Poisoning, 22 Henry VIII, Chapter 9, which officially makes poisoning a form of treason. And the punishment? Death by boiling. Not hanging, not beheading, but boiling alive in a cauldron. Like something out of a twisted fairy tale. Oh, and here's the real kicker. This law is retroactive, meaning it applies to Roose even though it didn't exist when he poisoned the soup. Talk about rewriting the rules to win the game. Why go so extreme for a cook, a nobody in the grand scheme of things? Some say Henry had a deep-seated fear of poisoning, seeing it as the ultimate coward's weapon. Others whisper there's more to it. The Bullen family, who'd love to see Fisher out of the picture, might have had a hand in this. The imperial ambassador, Eustace Shopweis, a friend of Fisher and Catherine of Aragon, even hints in his letters that Henry's acting so fast and so brutal to shut down any investigation that might point fingers at the Bullens, or maybe even the king himself. We'll never know the full truth, but one thing's clear. Roose's fate is sealed, and it's going to be ugly. The execution is set for April 5th, and Smithfield is packed with people. It's like a twisted festival. Vendors are selling food, kids are running around, but there's this undercurrent of unease. Everyone knows what's coming, and it's not going to be pretty. The cauldron's already bubbling, steam curling into the cold air, the flames snapping like they're hungry. Roose is brought out, his face a mask of terror. Some accounts say they gave him a bit of alcohol to take the edge off, a small mercy for a man about to face the unthinkable. The guards strip him down. A priest mutters a prayer for his soul. But there's no saving his body. They hoist him up, and then it begins. They lower him into the ca Virgil cauldron, just his legs at first. The screams rip through the square, so raw and piercing that some in the crowd faint. His skin blisters and peels, the water turning pink as it eats away at his flesh. They pull him up, then dunk him again, this time up to his chest. His screams turn to gurgles, barely human. One final dip, and he's fully submerged. The crowd is silent now, some turning away, others frozen in horror. Richard Roose, the cook who may or may not have meant to kill, is gone, boiled alive in a spectacle of unimaginable cruelty. This wasn't just a one-off. That law Henry passed, it stuck around. In 1542, a woman named Margaret Davies was boiled alive for poisoning 3 households. It wasn't until Edward VI, Henry's son, took the throne that this barbaric punishment was finally abolished. But the story doesn't end with Roose. John Fisher, the bishop he allegedly tried to kill, didn't escape the executioner's blade either. In 1535, he was beheaded for refusing to accept Henry as the head of the Church of England. His head spiked on London Bridge next to Thomas More's. And Bullen, whose rise to power was tangled up in this mess, didn't last long either. By 1536, Henry had her executed on flimsy charges of adultery and treason, clearing the way for his next wife, Jane Seymour. Henry himself kept ruling, marrying, and executing until his death in 1547, leaving behind a legacy of blood and transformation. England became a Protestant nation, the Catholic Church's grip broken, but at a cost no one could ignore. Smithfield, where Roose met his end, is now just a busy corner of modern London, with no trace of the cauldron or the screams that once filled the air. But stories like this don't fade easily. They stick with us, reminding us how power, fear, and vengeance can twist justice into something monstrous. Was Roose a murderer, a scapegoat, or just a guy who made a terrible mistake? We'll never know for sure, but his death, a punishment that turned a cook into the main ingredient, tells us everything we need to know about the brutal world he lived in. Thanks for diving into this dark corner of history with us. If this story blew your mind, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop a comment with the craziest historical tale you want us to cover next. Stay curious, and we'll see you in the next one.